The Supreme Court just made a major decision about gun rights in America involving Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act, or SOPA law. This decision could affect gun owners across the entire country. Back in 2021, Missouri passed a law saying they believe the Second Amendment protects gun rights, and if federal agents tried to enforce gun laws that Missouri thought violated the Second Amendment, Missouri wouldn't help them. Missouri police officers couldn't help federal agents enforce certain gun laws. State officials couldn't provide support or resources to federal agencies. And if any Missouri official broke this rule, regular citizens could sue them. The law essentially gave power to the people of Missouri rather than government agents. The Biden administration took Missouri to court, arguing that states can't refuse to cooperate with federal law enforcement like this. A district court sided with Biden's team and struck down the entire SOPA law with a permanent injunction. Missouri appealed to the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals and asked for the ruling to be paused while the case continued, but the Eighth Circuit said no. Missouri then went to the Supreme Court asking for an emergency stay, but 8 justices voted no, with only Clarence Thomas voting to let Missouri's law stay in effect. The case went back to the Eighth Circuit, which ruled against Missouri again. The appeals court admitted that the structure and basic operation of Missouri's law was actually valid, but they didn't like the purpose behind it. They also made an unusual argument that when Missouri officials simply followed state law and did nothing, that was still a form of enforcement. When Donald Trump became president in January 2025, everyone wondered whether his Department of Justice would support Missouri's gun rights law or continue Biden's fight against it. After months of delay, the Trump DOJ finally responded with a surprising position. They said the SOPA law was still invalid and the Supreme Court should not take the case, agreeing with the Biden administration's basic position. However, they added that the lower court's ruling probably went too far by blocking the entire law, and they promised that if the Supreme Court denied review and sent the case back to the lower court, they would narrow the injunction and let some parts of Missouri's SOPA law take effect. Missouri responded that this was exactly why the Supreme Court should take the case, arguing that if the Trump DOJ was willing to back down from the total ban, that proved the lower court got it wrong. Missouri also raised concerns about whether the Trump DOJ would actually keep their promise once the Supreme Court denied their case. The Supreme Court decided to deny Missouri's request for review, meaning they won't hear this case right now. They're trusting the Trump DOJ to keep their word and fix things at the lower court level. The case now goes back to the Eighth Circuit and the District Court. Here's the problem. The Supreme Court denied the case days ago, and the Trump DOJ promised they would narrow the injunction once that happened, but they haven't done it yet. The total ban on Missouri's SOPA law is still in place, with every part still blocked. While these things take time, and the Trump DOJ might file their motions soon, Missouri's concerns about the administration not following through look justified so far. This case matters beyond just Missouri because several other states have passed similar SOPA laws and are watching closely. The bigger principle is whether states can refuse to help enforce federal laws they believe are unconstitutional, a question that goes beyond gun rights and touches on the fundamental relationship between state and federal government. Missouri argued they have the right to protect their citizens' Second Amendment rights and shouldn't have to help enforce what they consider unconstitutional laws, while the federal government says states must cooperate with federal law enforcement even if they disagree with the laws being enforced. The case now goes back to the District Court in Missouri, where the legal battle will continue. We're waiting to see if the Trump DOJ will actually file a motion to narrow the injunction like they promised. If they do, parts of Missouri's SOPA law might be allowed to take effect. If they don't, the entire law stays blocked. There's also still a chance this case could eventually make it back to the Supreme Court if the lower court makes new rulings and Missouri appeals again. For now, Missouri's Second Amendment Preservation Act remains completely blocked, but there's still hope that parts of it might be restored soon. What happens in Missouri could set the precedent for the entire country, and cases like this will shape the future of gun rights in America. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.